Welcome everybody to the Phazon Labs, a brand new podcast powered by World 1-1. You can find us on Twitter with a brand new Twitter account that we haven't set up yet, but as soon as we do, I will fix this and put it in. I am your host, Larry the Bearded Wonder. Joining me is my new partner in crime, Isabel Bramman.
Also known as Metroid 35 on Twitter.
Yes.
So
real quick before we dive in, tell folks about what you're doing with Metroid 35 on Twitter.
it's a fanzine project that is celebrating the 35th anniversary of the Metroid series. So if you have any art, or if you have any written work about the Metroid series, or we're doing comics and that kind of thing, you can send it to the email, which is Metroid35Annie, ANNI, @gmail.com, and then we can put it in the zine, and that will be released on August 6th, and then there's going to be a potential print run released after that. So I'm super excited about that.
Yay, physical print run. We're big fans of that shit around here.
Mm-hmm.
So, we are coming at you live from Studio SR388 with a brand new podcast. Just to kind of let you know what you're in for with the new project here, Phazon Labs. We're going to be looking at elevator pitches and ideas for the Metroid series to move the franchise forward, since Nintendo refuses to for the last 2 decades. So this is just a creative outlet for ideas and fun. Isabel and I are going to be bouncing pitches. We're looking at doing a single idea pitch an episode. And as we start settling in, we're even going to be looking to bring in guests as well. So if you have a really neat idea for a Metroid game that you'd love to see happen, hit us up, let us know, and we would love to have you on and hear your idea and workshop it a little just for fun, just to keep the brain noodle moving. So Isabel, you ready to dig in?
Yeah, I am ready to dig in.
All right. So you and I were talking about this one just a little bit before we hit the record button. So this has been rolling around my noggin for a while now, but first pitch out the gate for this show, we're going deep inside. We're gonna get little bitty tiny. Mm-hmm. So the idea being that the gameplay loop revolves or is centered around, very specifically, ending up miniaturized inside of a Metroid, starting out as a larva, and the world map here is, as you progress, the Metroid begins evolving, going through its evolution cycles, and that will not only change the entire layout of the map, but also grow the map through every evolution up through Queen. And what you and I were just workshopping a few minutes ago was, looking for a story hook to get us to the idea. And from something you said, I'm like, this could work, would be if a research station somewhere, has a Metroid larva in captivity, and they're not trash like most of the rest of the Federation stuff is turned out to be when getting involved with these creatures, but instead they're genuine, and they're, I don't know, maybe they're teamed up with the Cirrus people that didn't make it out alive. They didn't seem to be up to some bullshit. That, or they were, and they just didn't get that far.
Mm-hmm.
And the larva is dying, like it's sick from the inside out. And so Samus goes in because she's well armored and equipped and now miniaturized, and you're working on getting through its innards and fighting back this infection. And the healthier that it's getting, the more progress you're making in pushing back whatever's trying to kill it from the inside out, allows it to then work its way into its next evolution cycle, thus triggering the change in the world map and, growing the world map. So it's something that could theoretically start small and get big. It doesn't necessarily have to start as a huge, full, like, Metroid game sized map, but it could end there. And the fact that it's changing really kind of grows the map size as you go along too. So you kind of get a twofer in terms of your explorable space, because you start with, you know, a moderate size, not huge, but then it grows and then it rearranges, so you're getting to re-explore that area all over again too, as something new again. And I would think that as the you know, as the game progresses, we've got to work in some new powers and abilities. So, but I would think maybe something either more, almost maybe taking a page from Dead Space, where it's not so much a weapon specifically, but it's something like some sort of medical geared equipment that's essentially being weaponized on a microscopic scale to fight this disease that's trying to kill the Metroid. I think could work well, because then it takes it out of the normal, here's the same run of power-ups. You know, I'd like to see that really shaken up for a change. So the question is, where would you go with it? What would you want to see out of this? And just because it's just an idea and it's fun to workshop it, how do you think this concludes? What would the ending to this look like?
So first I was kind of thinking of like the gameplay of it a little bit, and like, you know, there's kind of like this sort of interesting roguelike Metroidvanias. That's sort of a trend. And so I was thinking that this would be sort of a semi-roguelike, where the map wouldn't change if you died, but the map changes as the evolutions happen. So that way then you still get that good exploration, but you still get like changes as, you know, in that kind of roguelike setting. But as I'm thinking about for the ending of it, I'm thinking that, because I know that, and you're probably gonna laugh, in like Other M, like you destroy the queen from the inside out with like a power bomb, which I always thought was really cool.
They did that in the original too.
Yeah, and you can do it in Samus Returns as well.
I was going to be upset if that wasn't in Samus Returns.
Yeah, I always love that, doing that. I think it's a really interesting callback too. And it seemed like as though like it would be kind of sad to destroy something that you've spent all this time helping, but at the same time it kind of also fits the idea that this is a dangerous creature, and you know, it just can't be controlled and that kind of thing. So I feel like as though it can only end in one way, and that's in tears and sadness, unfortunately. So that's my theory. Maybe somebody else can make a happy ending out of it, but unfortunately I feel like as though Samus is always destined to be the one destroying instead of, you know, helping people like that.
She kind of has that in common with the Doctor from Doctor Who a little bit, if you think about it. Like, really doesn't want to, but man, seems like every damn time.
Yeah, it's kind of sad. But, and then I know that like in some of the other sort of, like in the manga and stuff like that, like the Samus and Joey manga, which I love and that kind of thing, she gets to, you know, like kind of be like a mom character and that kind of thing. But it's just, yeah, again, she just is this powerhouse, and she just pretty much just destroys stuff, and it's just always alone, never able to be happy, and it's just sad. So unfortunately I feel like as though this game will end in sadness again, if that makes sense.
I could see it. I honestly have a hard time trying to reconcile in my head, how the story on this finishes, like in its conclusion. But I'm like, there's got to be a good answer somewhere. Like somebody's got to be a good enough writer to come up with a solid idea for that shit.
Maybe they release it into the wild, into a
Right.
park, into a park, a nature reserve or something like that, and it lives its life, its best life, that kind of thing.
I mean, honestly, it's not a bad thought that, it's maybe one of those things where, they're like, okay, endangered species, at this point, we've saved one, and, federations all over the place. For all we know, they've got a couple of planets picked out somewhere that are, like, strictly closed for business, quarantine off, and they're just, like, full, like, wildlife reserves of sorts.
Mm-hmm.
And it could be dropped off there. So
I like that, because then the last Metroid could be living its best life, on its own, just chilling. Oh, that's a nice thought. I like that. So
I kind of do too.
Yeah.
So
And then Samus could visit every so often. Oh,
Right.
That would be so nice. Oh.
Part of me wonders too, because we never really saw or got the opportunity to see what would have happened beyond the larval stage with the infant Metroid, given that, it had, at least as a larva, kind of attached itself to her, if that attachment would survive through the rest of its evolutions as it was coming up. Part of me wonders if maybe they look at trying to recreate that with other larva Metroids from the Queen on this wildlife preserve planet, and maybe eventually down the line, they manage to almost domesticate Metroids, something the pirates could never pull off.
Yeah, because I know that in the Samus Returns memories, they had the Chozo memories from Samus Returns. They had the Chozo kind of using the Metroids as sort of kind of like pets, sort of kind of like attack dogs.
Because they were made to keep the X parasites in check.
Yeah, but they were also kind of like a weird sort of pet kind of thing. So I can totally imagine the Federation sort of domesticating them and keeping them as pets, which kind of makes me think of the scans from the Prime games when they're Metroids are not pets.
Do not feed the Metroids.
Yeah. So I mean, I still think that it would be entirely possible to, domesticate them, but it would probably take forever and ever, like decades or hundreds of years or something like that. So
right.
But yeah, I mean,
cool to see a queen wandering around, in the wild.
Catch it like a Pokemon.
Almost, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be it. That would actually be cute. Feed it little Pokepuffs. Yeah.
Now you dropped a thought there that hadn't occurred to me, but my brain is attaching to it. I could totally see this functioning as a roguelike or a roguelite, where every run does structure differently. And I know just the dude that could pull this off. We need to call up Matt Bittner, because that dude, he did some hella good work with a robot named Fight.
I've heard of that game. Yeah, it's in my massive backlog, the purgatory that is in my backlog, my game backlog. But I've heard good things about that game. It
is spectacular. He did an amazing job.
Yeah,
and
it's just, I am bad at video games. Let me put this on the record. So when it comes to roguelikes and constantly having to do new runs and that kind of stuff, it's just very disheartening to have to relearn a new map every time. That's my only thing. So that's why I said that it would be like a semi-roguelike where the map would change. but like still keep certain areas the same. But I don't know. And maybe they could really push the roguelike aspects of it, and just make it go fully roguelike.
I could see
yeah.
that with this one.
Yeah.
Just as an aside for you, by the way, if just to give you a little background on what makes a robot named Fight so standout for this kind of thing is, Dead Cells kind of started toying with the idea, but didn't really bring, roguelike and Metroidvania completely together because, they're disconnected biomes that change every time. But what Matt did with a robot named Fight is that every new game generates a new, like, Super Metroid-sized map, completely randomized. So, but he did a really good job putting some checks and balances in there. So, whereas, most roguelikes and roguelites don't have a save system, a robot named Fight does, sort of, but it's very limited. So there, in every run, there's a couple of save points sparsed throughout. And if you get to one and you die, it'll kick you back to the save point, but then the save point destroys, it's gone. You can't reuse it.
Interesting.
It's like a one-time, save you ass thing until you get to the next save point and then eventually the end. Plus, it lets you know, or it gives you the information so that if you liked like this particular map layout, you can save that seed and go back to that exact layout again.
So like the you can go back to like a certain map, and like rerun it basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, that does sound much more appealing now that I think about it. So, I do like that. I do like that concept of being able to rerun maps, potentially. It's just, yes, again, I am bad at video games. I die a lot. I was just replaying through a little bit of Fusion, actually, and it was just like pain, massive pain. So...
I wouldn't feel bad about that, because the difficulty curve at the beginning of Fusion was definitely more ramped up than any game that preceded it.
Yeah, definitely. So, that does make sense.
I remember thinking that when it came out. I'm like, this is harder than the series has been before, at least in the beginning. So, I mean, it started to level out, about a third of the way through. But no, that beginning, everything hit like a truck. So,
yeah.
But
yeah, it definitely cannot take damage in that game, and I go willy-nilly all over the place and don't think through things and that kind of thing. So it's definitely, that's my. But at least I like the controls better than they're still not as good as like the later games and that kind of thing. But I still haven't played the Prime games yet though, so that's my. I still don't compare those yet, but. I still like the GBA games better than Super when it comes to the controls.
See, I liked, the control and the feel in Super and in like Metroid 2, that heavier, floatier control. Like she felt more like the tank of a character that she is, so to speak. So, and I really enjoyed that fact. She felt weighty when she moved. Versus just this. So
I guess my only complaint with the controls in Super is that the world design is so cramped in it that like I just end up like hitting Samus against like every single ledge and ceiling and like completely disrupting my momentum. So it might just be a me problem. That might just be it. So
that's okay.
Yeah.
But also just a note for you personally, because my guess is, this is an at the time of recording thing. So by the time this goes up, and things are in motion finally, and this launches, this will probably have passed. But a robot named Fight is on sale at the moment for like less than $5,
Mm.
And if you didn't see it, Premium Edition Games just dated the pre-orders for the physical for A Robot Named Fight, which is going to be the middle of June.
Okay.
So
yeah, I'll definitely look into that. I just got the digital edition. Oops, sorry, something went wrong. Oops, I think. Okay, now it's good. Okay, sorry. I just got the. I was looking for the physical edition of Ori and the Blind Forest, but I could only get the digital edition, unfortunately, unless I wanted to pre-order it. But I was like, I don't. I have things to do. I want the digital edition so I can actually play it. So, but
I've still seen physical copies of the standard floating around Walmarts in town here.
Yeah, I should definitely hit up my local Walmart. I had gone to my local Best Buy to pick up the headset and that kind of thing, so that's why.
Right.
But anyway, back to our inside of Metroid. So I know that we had talked beforehand, and my kind of like big pitch for this is that there would be no ice beam in this game, because I feel like as though that would be completely broken. Especially if we're trying to like save this Metroid, you know, have it go to a good home in a nature reserve. But instead, there would be ice armor. And this would be a way to help protect Samus against like energy drain while she's inside the Metroid. What are your thoughts on that?
I've almost got mixed feelings, because I feel like even if her armor is iced, and I was thinking about it between then and now, and I'm like, even if her armor is iced and it's not a freeze-based weapon, that it would still potentially be harmful to the Metroid as she's inside it. I'm almost thinking, part of me thinks too that that the energy drain might not be an issue, because at that point, at least it's in my head, is that life drain only really occurs, externally of the creature. That inside, that's not so much the case. And I'm almost thinking maybe a more bolstered suit to prevent like any sort of like internal acidic or any sort of like internal acids or corrosive fluids inside the Metroid to keep it from breaking her suit down and killing her while she's inside. So maybe that's how we get to that's the gimmick we use to create a new styled suit for this go round, something that kind of breaks away from just the traditional palette swap.
Yeah, I do like that idea, actually. I mean, the only thing that I think about for the ice armor is, I know that like when you play Samus Returns, when you're doing like the power bomb inside the Queen Metroid, you have to use like the lightning armor Aeon ability to protect yourself. So that's the only reason why I thought of the ice one. But I wonder if that would only if your idea would work for like the lesser evolutions, and then when you get to the Queen, then you have to get like the ice armor, and that would be the very last kind of suit evolution. What are your thoughts on that?
Ooh, I've got a thought. I'm almost thinking that I don't know if I want to go armor, if this is maybe a good reason or excuse to bring back the diffusion missiles, but I'm thinking maybe like Endgame, the whole thing finally comes to a head, no pun intended, as it reaches the queen stage, and you have to make your way to the queen's brain in its head to fight back the infection, as it's essentially backed into a corner and trying to redouble its efforts to kill the Metroid from the inside out. And in order to preserve the queen and buy yourself time, maybe launching off like an ice infused power bomb that essentially freezes and stops the brain function of the queen temporarily, but it also helps keep the infection out and from progressing in the queen. And that's where the final fight takes place.
Ooh. Yeah, I do like the idea of having like the ice power bombs as like your very final weapon. Yeah. And like the idea that you're kind of like harmlessly kind of like dealing with this Metroid, I like that idea. Because then the Queen Metroid can go and live on the nature reserve, which is the happy ending that I want. So I agree that this is the canon ending that I want for this game. So yes, so I like this, and I feel like as though for the infection itself, it should definitely like take different forms too, and like corrupt different organs, I feel. So like the heart is like constantly like spitting out gunk at you, and like that kind of thing. And I don't know, like trying to think of like boss fights. Like you're inside like like the heart, and like it's just spitting out gunk, and like you're inside the stomach.
You can get to each internal, like major internal organ, and you can see it basically being enveloped or affected by this disease, and depending on the organ inside, it's kind of using the organ as a way to fight you, to try and stop you from stopping it. I would be inclined to think too that as we get into the last couple of evolutions, especially like the Omega and the Queen, before we get to the end there, we could eventually get to whatever fictional internal organ that produces the acid that it spits.
Oh yeah, definitely. Because like I can imagine like fighting over like a giant pool of acid, and like you're trying to, like the Ceres boss fights maybe.
Yeah.
Where
you've got like a couple of platforms of maybe like blood cells kind of floating through, and that's what you're bouncing across as they're moving to keep yourself out of the acid pit and try and hit this infection.
Yes, I like that idea. Yeah. Yeah, and it's like shooting all this stuff at you. Although I don't really like bullet hell bosses, as I have discovered from my Axiom Verge playthrough, but but I do think it could work in this game. So, but yeah,
I don't think everyone would have to be that either, but I mean, you could probably work like 1 to 2 in with the plethora. So
yeah, definitely get some variety in there. Yeah.
Well, I think all that's left for this particular pitch and episode of Phazon Labs, our very first, would be to put a title to this idea, and I think I've got it.
Okay.
My brain tells me that this game is titled Metroid Infection.
Ooh.
Done.
Ooh, I like that.
Right there. Just
yes.
Done.
Uh-huh.
So, but
I think we should tie a little bow on that and pitch it to Nintendo. Although I should say that for every episode that we have now, as a little as our little ending, that we should tie a little bow and send it as a little gift, a free idea.
So, super fun fact here, and I will not name names because I don't want to be responsible for somebody's inbox getting bombarded. However, I am acquaintances bare minimum, somewhere between acquaintances and friends. We share some friendly online conversation from time to time with a certain individual that actually does have his paycheck signed by Nintendo.
Ooh.
And happens to be a Metroid fan.
Ooh.
And so periodically, when a good off-the-wall idea hits my brain, I shoot it over to him and go, I had a fun idea. You'd appreciate this.
Yes.
So...
Yes.
So somebody at Nintendo, I won't say if it's anybody that, you know, has the power to influence anything or not, but somebody at Nintendo has heard some of my Metroid ideas.
Well, you know, that's better than me. I just am like drawing pictures of like Samus on like Mario Go-Kart things and like sending it to Sakurai, you know, like retweeting like Sakurai's and being like, I'm giving you this idea for free, Nintendo. And that
right,
kind of thing.
let's do something with it.
Yeah. So that kind of thing. But yeah, no, I definitely think yours is the better way to do that. But
all right.
Yeah.
Well, I want to thank everybody for...
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, you go.
Metroid Infection. All right.
Yes.
I can't wait for the game to come out.
So I want to thank everybody for tuning in and checking out the inaugural episode of the Phazon Labs. We will have another episode posting up next week, and we'll see you next mission. Peace!
See ya!